Hello.
Hello, I'm Dick.
I'm Ash Von Ding of Eldong tonight.
Well, I'm Dick, the dick pic giver of guitar picks with Dick my name on them.
Yeah,
Ladies
thanks
and
for clarifying.
gentlemen, this is episode number 23, For Real, The Revenge. And we'd like to welcome our special guest for this week's episode, the one and only Mr. Rob Knowles from the Off the Record Music Show with his dick pic.
Woo! We have many things to talk about. Get started, Rob.
Oh, Rob.
I got my dick pic.
You are now entering the Cue the Muses podcast. Please reserve submission of any joy meter statistics until after the program.
We're back.
Oh,
We're back.
hey, Rob.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Hello.
this is Rob. You probably know him from the Off the Record Music Show that you have most likely seen an episode of, especially if you're watching this show. We're all in this community of local musicians around Tallahassee. The whole band community. And you have been supporting rock for the last, how long? Now, when did you start your Off the Record show? How long you guys been doing this now? You and Jeremy?
In its current iteration, a little more than a year and a half. I can't remember when the exact first episode was, but yeah, it's been a little over a year and a half, something to that extent. So just a quick background. Jade and I had another iteration of the show. I can't remember what we called it. We had a few guests on, but it was one of those things where we were not getting much traction at all. We were putting all this work and effort into it, and we were getting 1 or 2 viewers per show. And we were like, this isn't working. And so we kind of put it to the side, and the holidays came around and just got put on the back burner. Quite some time passed after that. And I was like, Jade, we need to get back together. Need to do it. Pick it up. Do it again. It was something that I enjoy. I love doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, so finally one day we got together and we like, as far as the name is concerned, we were kind of butting heads on what we're going to name the show, and that caused us to not put anything out because we didn't know what the hell to call it. So finally, I had ideas.
Classic.
Yeah, I had ideas. She had ideas. I didn't like hers. She didn't like mine. Such as it goes in all bands. So we literally put a name in a random picker, and Off the Record is what it landed on. And
wow.
Even after that, I was like, I don't know, but it is what it is, and I kind of like it now. I wouldn't change it for anything now.
Now, you felt that way about it. Did Jade feel that way too? Like you guys were both disappointed? Okay.
Yeah, no. So Off the Record was actually one of her ideas.
Okay. It would have been hilarious if both of you guys weren't happy with that pick. You stuck to your guns.
Yeah.
Principles apply. That's what you got. Destiny gave it to you.
It goes to show, like, you make the name. At the end of the day, it almost doesn't matter what the name is. You're going to create the entity.
Yep. It's been fun. I think we said we did well over 100 shows last year. I don't remember the exact number. We actually talked about this a couple of days ago. It was well over 100 shows last year. And wait, no, there's only 52 weeks in a year, so no, 100 can't be right. Anyways,
you guys are at it too. Over 2 weeks.
Our F-bombs.
You got oh yeah, totally fine. You can fucking F-bomb this and F-bomb that. Demonetize the YouTube. He has the F-bomb, but just for the people, there it is. There's the F-bomb. Hey, that came from RJ. Man, we met this guy named RJ Rackley Super cool dude. He was at Ocala. He was our neighbor at our booth at the Spookala event that we did early in 2023. And RJ just so happened to be set up next door to us in a booth selling these awesome crochet things. He has the F-bomb. I have this water dragon back here that I got from him. This is another RJ exclusive. Actually, it's his wife who makes them. But ex-bass player turns out from a band way back in the early 2000s called Mod Ev, short for Modern Evolution.
And they were signed.
Yeah, they were signed. They toured. They did the van and trailer thing and played some killer shows, around the States back in the day. I had never heard of him, but just a super cool guy. Friended on Facebook. He makes custom leather stuff, fun, cool stuff. But he made that F-bomb.
And this F-bomb is cool because it's hilarious because my son, I have two sons, but one of them's a year and a half old, and he doesn't have the biggest vocabulary yet, but this is one of his vocabulary words is F-bomb. And he goes, F-bomb. And we throw it back and forth to each other. So me and my year and a half old trade F-bombs left and right and have a great old time with it.
That's great. We're going to have to tag RJ in that for sure.
I need to make a clip. I already planned.
But Rob, you guys, you are Off the Record Music Show is live every week on Facebook, Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Is that right?
7:30. Yep.
7:30. And you guys don't really skip a beat from what I can tell. I mean, you're pretty much every Wednesday it's on. Like it's a thing. Actually, I have missed a few, and that's why I want to call that out. You're more consistent than we are, but we're trying.
Yeah,
we're trying.
There were a few times last year where we didn't have a show for whatever reason. That did not happen once or twice, maybe. Consistency was one of the things that we really pushed early on. If we're going to do this, we got to do this right every Wednesday, hell or high water. And I have recently taken over the challenge of bringing people in, and getting them on the show. And man, it is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, because you guys do guests like every episode, right?
Every episode, right.
That's very different. That's a big challenge. I mean, logistically, just me and Dick trying to, and I think there's an interesting conversation for people that are interested in starting their own, whether it be a show or podcast, because so many people are considering that or have tried and realized the reality of how hard it is to actually stick to doing this stuff. And also, it's an interesting evolution that you get to experience with your own vocabulary and thought processes, because you're really, it's very, very different to put a conversation on the record, even if it's off the record. And it's like, I mean, you really get to hear when you listen back to these episodes, you get to kind of really evolve your way of thinking. I mean, I've learned a lot about filming myself over the last handful of years, because I also have a channel where I teach about making videos. It's like a video tutorial channel, and those things I edit, so I get to really manipulate what's there. These are unedited, and nonetheless, that exploration, watching and hearing yourself back, you get to kind of figure out where gaps are in your logic, but also when you think that you're being really clear about stuff, it makes you kind of realize, I kind of just never even came back to that, point or something like that. And then it makes you wonder, it makes me think back about arguments that maybe you've had with people in the past about communication, and you thought you were totally on point. And it's like, man, I mean, and those are old memories that you might battle about. We're talking about, you make a show, you think that you said something a certain way, you watch it back immediately, and you're like, I wasn't clear about that at all. Like, I could be way more clear and concise about that topic. And so that's a fun, I don't know. It's been a fun self-improvement game, just getting to make this podcast, even though we're only at episode 23, but that's roughly over 23 hours of talking on film, on camera and reviewing it. Right.
You mentioned you were talking about effective communication, and communication at its very core is really interesting in the sense that you have this thought in your mind, right? And then you go to vocalize that thought. Then you have this other person on the other end, and you can only hope with all your hopes that they recept, I guess, everything that you're trying to articulate as I am now.
Right. When you start thinking about it, it becomes challenging.
Well, and
it is weird. You don't actually. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dick.
No, I was just going to say a lot of times, it's, well, you wait for your turn in the conversation, right? And
I hate that.
You have and you have a thought, like you have a thought that you want to interject to the topic, and then while you're like working through the thought in your head, maybe it's more than just the three of us. Maybe you're in a room of 6 or 7 people, and then you're thinking about your thought, and then you miss 2 or 3 points in the conversation, and then when you finally do say something, it's just in a weird, awkward place that doesn't make sense anymore. I've had that happen to me more often than not, and I've had talks with a couple of friends of mine about professional settings. Not like this is like a very informal. We're professionals in our own respective areas musically, but this is kind of a open discussion forum, right? But at my job and at a lot of people's jobs, we have to have meetings, like board meetings and things like that, where it's very formal. And then, one of the things that I hate about it is everybody has to change the way they talk to make themselves sound like they have the most vocabulary, the highest level of intellect and stuff. Like, you get into those kind of conversations, and I just want to detach and leave the room. But then eventually you have to shut something off when there's information that has to be conveyed. You just have to know your area and your level of information that you need to share with the group, and share it, and then turn that other receptor off. That is, what do I sound like to these other people? Right.
Yes.
Like, you just think that's when it becomes a job. But when I have a hard time turning that off in my discussions with friends, where like I'm so used to that environment. And then when I'm with friends, I need to not say so much like I am now, and sit back and make sure that I'm taking in everything that everyone else is saying more.
Dick, I've been in customer service for a really long time, and one of my very first managers told me, we were talking about exactly what you said. You're listening and you have this thought in your head, and you're not actually listening. And she said to me, "Quiet your thoughts. Listen to the information that you're being given, and take it in and understand it. Be in the conversation. If you're thinking about like you said, waiting for your turn to speak, you're missing the entire conversation."
Yeah.
And especially in a professional setting, work doesn't get done.
Well, sorry. No, we all have something to say on you. It's your turn, Ed. You go.
My fucking turn. All right. So what I was going to say, no, it's just, that it's also letting something go. Like, if you're holding on to that idea to present, and it has passed its point of the conversation, and everyone's had a different topic, when somebody brings back up immediately when they finally get their first opportunity to talk, that it's about this 5 minute ago thing. They weren't listening the last 5 minutes. I mean, that's what it kind of represents. It's like,
it does.
So you got to be able to let certain things go, and then bring them back organically after you've really acknowledged, been able to explore whatever topic's actually present at the moment. What we're talking about, guys, is the art of conversation, and we're talking about it in different dynamics. We're talking about it in the dynamics of friends, talking about it in the dynamics of workplace. You're talking about the dynamics of customer service, and there's also the dynamic of, literally selling. I mean, that's a whole thing. Marketing is something that I've grown up around my whole life with my pop. And then it's the reason I have a video business is a large part of my success is associated with marketing, because I'm not just a person that can execute stuff with a camera and edit something. It's like the way the things come out is based completely around a marketing concept, but I kind of let the marketing idea hopefully melt away enough, and then just get down to the core of what I just think gets a point across. then it becomes like a fun, it doesn't feel like I'm making commercial work so much. It feels like I'm getting to tell stories, you know, and I like changing it like that. I really prefer creating things because that's an art of communication too. I'm trying to take something that this company needs to get across to people and put it in the most entertaining, or express it in the most entertaining way.
You're telling a story.
You're telling a story. And if you, and I think a lot of creators that have to take their work, an artist that then get the opportunity to do something for a business, don't end up doing something as creative as what the limits are, or the limitlessness that's available to them. And I think that I've seen this happen with people that are green. They'll handicap themselves on their options list. And it's like, what you're going to turn in might satisfy the client, but it's not the thing that seals the deal on you being their guy for the rest of the company, you know, like, I mean, for the rest of the life of the company. And you can, and the only way to do that is to really have some unique personal stamp on it. So don't handicap yourself yet. Get the biggest grand idea out there. You can always strip it back down. You can always rein something back. It's a lot harder to have something small and then constantly keep adding little things to it, because you constantly feel like you're pushing the envelope. And, you know, you might be working in an envelope when really you could have been working in a giant box, you know, like a big ass grocery box that could have held all kinds of bananas and fruit and meat. Rant over.
No, that's you bringing you into what you do. I mean, right? Because Ash, you're an artist at heart, and your profession, sorry, is something that's artistic in nature. Now you have projects that are corporate projects. Not every project you get is going to be on face value an artistic project, is what you're saying. But you being who you are, still find a way to make that into something that is artistic, and that element of emotion that gets conveyed in the artistic representation of the corporate project that you're doing seals the deal, right? That
seems to be the track record. You're totally on point. That's been my experience. And what'll happen is, if you do have like basically a lifelong relationship with the company, because that's kind of where I'm at, down to a handful of clients, we do multiple projects over the course of the year. Once you're doing so many, you can handle doing a few that are just cut and dry. We need to execute exactly this. We know this one's boring, you know, but it's peppered into a myriad of other videos. So you get to shine in the ones that just keep reminding them of, like, you know, when we need him to, he's got this whole other thing that he can just take it to a different level. And, yeah. And so it's fun, but I mean, like, literally right now I'm working on a TV commercial that's due tomorrow. And it was honestly the idea. I presented 3 ideas, and they did go with the safest one. That's the way I'll word it. Like, I presented one that was absolutely safe. You know, there is nothing about, and I won't say what it is, but on set, something happened where it just gave this opportunity for a completely different spin on the beginning. And it's just totally random. And now all of a sudden it's a piece I'm really excited about, because enough people on set were excited, including the company, was excited enough about this idea being something like, well, that's what people will talk about. Like, now it's fun. So you just, you know, you might still have those opportunities if you stay sensitive to it throughout the entire project. Again, don't lock yourself into a box once you've decided on how something needs to be. And this can relate absolutely to songs and being in bands, and being absolutely steadfast that this is the way the part is on the album. We recorded it this way, and it's got to stay that way. And it's like, but does it? Does it?
That's the artist mindset. That is in by definition, it's got to be the artist mindset, right? I mean, you get too procedural with anything, it turns too mechanical. And now those things have a place in the world for sure. And they have a place in music too. I mean, look at, you know, Ministry, you know, bands like Ministry, bands like Rammstein, you know, like stuff like mechanically driven stuff, but there's still got to be a level of improvisation in it. And that's where that's where you really start getting the separation. When things start going off script, when things don't, when you're at a live show, for instance, at a live show, and things start going off script, and you're in a whole new uncharted territory of a song, and in the moment you make it whatever it is. That's that road. That's the road that I like, because that's where the excitement is. That's where the fulfillment happens. That's, it's make or break, and there's some stakes, and
Well,
that's,
see, and that's what's so funny, Rob, about me and Dick, is that he's that, and I am the guy that's like, I spent 2 months coming up with this one line. I'm gonna play it this way. We're not deviating from this concept. It's too hard. When it goes to 7/4 and back to 11, we're not free jamming, because we're not gonna, like I like it to be so complex that it inhibits that a little bit. But that's the contrast. It's the fire and ice. I consider myself ice and him fire, but he thinks, reverse of that. So that's why we're perfect together.
I'm not ice. I'm water. I'm water.
Oh, you're
he's fluid.
Me. Oh, you're fluid. I'm stuck as like a fucking ice cube. Rob, what's the music? What you played in bands? You're writing music now. What's going on? Where are you at musically right now? What's going on?
I am working on a project. Okay. It is a little bit of stuff that I have done with my last band. I'm in a little bit of a rut at the moment because I don't understand the production side of it.
Okay.
I don't know what buttons to press to accomplish what it is I'm trying to accomplish. I'm in a little bit of a.
So you mean I don't mean to cut you off. You mean by production, you mean recording and are you talking about recording and building it in a like a Pro Tools environment or something?
Yep, I am using Reaper, and I understand enough to be able to hit the record button, right?
Yeah.
I understand the very, very basic fundamentals of the program, but I feel like I don't know enough about the program to really, again, for lack of better terms, to really achieve and to do what it is that I'm trying to do. I'm not putting it down at all, though. Actually, I'm getting more and more excited. I'm getting a bass here pretty soon.
Nice.
I am considering getting an electronic drum kit. I do have. I don't know if I can show you. Yeah, I can actually. I do have.
Reveal it.
One of these guys.
Boom.
Right here. And it works.
Okay. MIDI.
Harmonia.
It works, but keeping time. You can keep time.
Yeah.
Keep trying.
You're doing better than me. You're doing better than me, because mine looks nice, doesn't work.
Yeah. And again, even that, I don't understand. Like all these buttons and knobs, I don't fucking know what they do.
So
it takes a long time, man. I mean, it's a beast to learn all that stuff, and it's great and it is fun. But I would say, and I think we discussed this on our episode where me and Dick were together on your Off the Record. I was kind of recommending, just inevitably, you can record tracks, but maybe use it more as a tool to figure out what the songs are. And then ultimately, even if it's less songs, just getting to hear yourself recorded in a real studio, just so you understand even what you're going for, what your sound can be.
Yeah.
There is something that's kind of mind blowing, that experience of getting to hear yourself and what you guys are doing back. You really acknowledge how powerful what you're doing is and can be when it gets the treatment that everything else that you're hearing gets. Ultimately, I mean, the majority of what you're hearing on, whether it's Spotify or, professional recording and people that have put that time and stuff, it's an art. And I don't, I've got all this experience with video and I still am intimidated and don't feel, I know I cannot record music to the level that I want it to be. It does not match my video quality. So we went to Brett, and I don't regret it at all. And I hear Brett's mix and it's like, yeah, I'm light years away from that. And to hear Brett's mixes of our music, it's like, oh man. And he's not the only engineer I've gone to. And every time I've gone to an engineer, it's just, you realize like what an art it is. It's a whole other thing. It's like, you could learn guitar or you might learn how to record music. I mean, hopefully you get both, but it is that big of an animal to tackle in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But again, to answer your question, it's something that's very exciting to me. Although I'm not I've mentioned this to you before. Although I'm not a sound engineer or whatever, I do enjoy it. It's what you just said. Hearing the music that I wrote, that I recorded, spent all this time putting it together, and to hear it, in my cans here, it's an amazing feeling.
It is amazing.
It makes it all worth it.
There's a
awesome.
bridge that gets crossed when you write music, or you write riffs, or write bass lines or drum tracks. When you start actually putting it down and listening back, and then in my experience, I can't speak for anyone else, but my experience, when you start tracking everything, like when you start building the session, building the song, because I've done my own parts at other studios, but I've also done songs myself, ground up, programming drums, not playing. I'm not a drummer, so I've programmed drums. But when you start building and you really start manipulating each part, each instrument, it really, really opens your eyes to like more or less being a part of the whole rather than being the part. Does that make sense? A lot of people like guitar, especially guitar players. I mean, us guitar players are the worst about being, I want to be the loudest. I'm going to have, all my mids scooped out, sound cool in the room, and think it's going to sound good with the band, but it's like, well, not always. And sometimes playing the coolest part isn't the coolest thing for the song, right? Like you start thinking about the song is that's the cumulative effort. Everyone's coming together and making this pyramid. And if you're trying to build a straight, a clock tower on the side of a pyramid, well, it's not a pyramid anymore. It's just some weird thing with a clock tower sticking out the side of it. And that experience, being able to build that more and more, is going to be beneficial to anybody. I mean, Rob, anybody who tries to do it, I encourage it, because I know the hours I've spent and how much of an impact it's made on me as a musician, and looking at it. Reaper, I know, is a good software. I've tried to use it once, and I'm a Pro Tools guy. So when I tried to use Reaper, it was like trying to breathe on Mars.
Well, that's encouraging.
It's just different, dude. I used Reaper. I did Reaper, and I've done Cubase. Those are the two. And I've done Persona Studio 1. So I've tried 3. And each one, every time I would get to it, it would feel like, I would feel like I didn't know what I was doing. Everything felt so cumbersome. But Reaper, I mean, one of my favorite recordings that I personally have made were two of them were done in Reaper. And this was Reaper 7 years ago. I mean, I'm sure it's even better now, obviously, so there, if you can totally go far. I think the biggest thing with Reaper is if you get into plugins, or you get into where you want, where you're like installing other amp models and things, you're not going to get support. That's the only issue with it, is that should you, like all those companies that make the plugins and things, in general, when I checked last, because Reaper is ultimately free, even though you can pay a donation fee for it, those companies that make the plugins simply don't support it. So if you needed technical help and that's what you're using, they say, well, we're not promising that it's compatible with that program anyway. That's the biggest problem with it. Other than that, it seemed 100% functional, just as powerful, capable of literally everything that the other programs had to offer. Is just a little bit of a different method of doing it. Was my experience.
I'm finding the plugins I'm using so far, everything's been pretty straightforward.
Beautiful.
I try and keep it simple, right? Try and keep things as simple and as straightforward as possible. I feel the more that you add to it, the muddier things get. things get more cluttered, and I like it. I like it clean.
How much are you recording? Are you doing guitar, bass, drums, vocals? What all are you covering for your
guitars, bass, and drums? My vocalist, he is contributing again to vocals for the stuff that he and I worked on. For the stuff that is more original, I suppose, for lack of better terms. I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep things instrumental. I have reached out to a few musicians to come and play different parts on different tracks whenever that time comes. So I really don't know. Right now, it's just a project of me recording music. That's been really the most important thing. I have a few things down, and I'm not proud of any of it. Not really.
Are you just too harsh on yourself? Have you put this out to a few people?
Yeah, I put it out to a few people, and the feedback that I'm getting is pretty consistent. Like for example, keeping time on that fucking thing right there.
Yeah.
So when you say keeping time on that, are you using the keyboard in real time to play the drum track?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yep.
That is hard. That is next to impossible.
Yeah.
To do. So what I would encourage you to do, and I don't know how Reaper works, but what I would encourage you to do is to use some sort of drum sampling program that allows you to edit it. Sorry, in the MIDI window.
Okay.
So if Reaper has a setup like Pro Tools does, right? I can only explain what I know, right? So
sure.
when I run Pro Tools, I run a drum programming software. When I started, I ran it through it was Easy Drummer 2 that I started with.
Yep.
And it's triggered by the MIDI window in Pro Tools. And the MIDI window is just basically a graph chart grid of a keyboard. So on the left side of the screen, let me get my hand right. On the left side of the screen, you'll have a set of keys, 88 keys on the keyboard. And then each key we would go through and it would be a different drum. So you would find the key. Okay, this black key is the kick. This one's a snare. This one's a hi-hat. Those are the three most important ones. And then as the grid travels from left to right, it's in time with the tempo of the track. So then you would just highlight on the grid, okay, kick here, snare, doom, doom, da, as it runs. And then rather than playing it real time on a keyboard, you're actually just following it and program it with a point and click of the mouse on the grid. And that's how I think that's how all the drum programs work now. When you're using a drum plugin, a drum program plugin, that's how it works. I use Superior Drummer 3, which is exactly the same thing, but it has its own window within the plugin. That's its own MIDI window, and it's just way more intuitive. It's a little bit of a learning curve from the old school built-in MIDI window that Pro Tools had with Easy Drummer, but the Superior Drummer 3 is just such a wonderful program. I don't know what I just did, but it's like it has taught me with seat time in the program. This is a weird thing. It's like this Neo in the Matrix thing happened. And like I said, I'm not a drummer, but after plugging so many drum tracks and editing so many things and learning how the grooves work and learning how the time signatures work by building drum tracks in a fake drum program, it has improved my understanding of timing, of tempo, of signatures, of nuances as a guitar player and just as a musician overall. That's been an incredible tool to just help me understand where now when I listen to a song, I felt this thought came across the other day. I'm a very, I meant to say this earlier to bring back to that old conversation. When I think, right, I'm a very visual thinker. I've gotten in car accidents because when I start thinking, I daydream, and my mind's eye opens up, and my actual vision clouds up. But when I do that, listening to music, I find more. When I listen to a song, I feel like I'm in the drummer's seat. When I listen to a track, like I don't anymore. I don't just listen to the guitar or just listen to the vocal. I feel like I'm sitting in the drum throne, and that's how I hear the song. And that's because that's the foundation. That's the bottom of the foundation V of the song is the drum. And I, listen, and it helps you really understand everything as a whole. I guess what I'm trying to say is the way you should attack it, I feel, is to learn how to program the MIDI setup rather than use the real-time keyboard.
Also using Easy Drummer, and I saw that part that you're talking about with the grids, and I saw that and I said, nope.
It is daunting, and it does take. I mean, I started 2015. I was in the band 86 The Earth, and I recorded our demo. And that was the first time I used Easy Drummer. Shane Wright at Studio One. If you know who Shane Wright is, Shane Wright had Easy Drummer, and he showed it to me. He was like, "Look at this plugin I got. It's a drum program." And he made the drum track, and I said, if I had that, I could release a song a week.
Yep.
If I learned how to do that, I was like, if I had that, because that's the hardest thing as a guitar player is finding a drummer, right?
Yes. Yes.
As a music, finding a drummer who's dependable, reliable, and awesome. It's just hard. And
drummers are a breed of person.
It's not easy. It's easy to play guitar. It's not easy to play drums.
I will say this: I'm fucking determined to make this shit work. It's just a process right now, and I'm one of those people where whenever I get involved in something, I can't put it down. So
well, that's absolutely the problem, isn't it?
Yeah. And I am truly excited to put music out there. I'm a musician. I love music. And I love creating music. I have no inclination to be in a band ever again. That life is done. But I still want to make music, right? So
yeah, totally, man. You can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
Well, what's the influences band wise? What are we going to touch on here? Like, I mean, obviously,
let's do it. Let's bring something back. We did this a couple episodes back. Let's do a current. What's your current? Everybody share a current top 5.
How about top 3?
Okay, top 3. Current top 3.
We're going with Rob first. Unless he's not ready.
Rob's actually bringing up his.
You didn't study for your test.
Wait, you didn't tell me there's going to be a test, damn it. Wait a minute. There is a band that I actually just recently found, and I'm looking them up to make sure I do not mislabel them. Bleed From Within. They are Bleed From Within. They are a Scottish metalcore band, and oh my good God, they are so good.
Awesome.
They're so good. Super riffy band. Super riffy.
Yes.
Really, really. Which album are you listening to right now?
I don't know the name of the album. I've been bouncing all over the place. The last track that I listened to was I Am Damnation.
Yes.
So all right, so there's Bleed From Within, excuse me. Ginger. I'm a huge Ginger fan. Lamb of God. And of course, Metallica and Pantera.
Now is this your top 5 for how long? Or this is current, or is this
current.
Like just your default? Okay, yeah,
current for right now. Yep.
Yes.
So Rob,
go ahead.
No, Rob's got a good mix of brand new and old school.
Yes,
classic. Yeah.
Yes.
Totally.
Hell yeah.
And that's great.
Go ahead, Ash.
No, you go for it.
No, I was gonna say what's because Ginger's a newer thing, right? Ginger, I saw Ginger when Kurt's band Defy the Tyrant opened for him in Destin, and Ginger's like super clean but super simple kind of band. It was refreshing that it wasn't like, now when I say super simple, it was a single guitar player, a single bass player, single drummer,
Yes.
three-piece music, one vocal up front.
Yep.
Not a whole lot of backtrack weirdness on the live show, not a lot of like pre-recorded backup vocals or anything. It was just the four of them on stage. Now, what they were playing was not simple. What they were playing was amazing, beautiful, technical, crossbreed metal to melodic, fun, funky, genty kind of stuff. But what's I don't know, but that's all I know. Of face value is all I know of Ginger. They're not in a regular rotation for me. Like, what's the album? What's the song? Which one like speaks to you the most? Makes you feel away?
Their most recent album, Wallflowers, there is a track on there called Vortex. So for me, music has to have two things: groove and melody. And I mean, this track is just groove and melody all over the goddamn place, right? And as far as guitars are concerned, it's the type of guitar style that I kind of wish I could be, but it's like it's almost not in my DNA to be able to play like that. A good example of that is country music. Don't ask me. I love country music. 90s country is my jam, but don't ask me to play in the style of country because I don't know how to play like that.
That's a different road you got to go down, right? When you start like you're learning Metallica songs, and then if you go to learn a Jethro Tull or a Brooks and Dunn or any of those Tim McGraw song, that's a whole nother road. It's not the same skill.
And I feel that could be said for Ginger in the sense that, like, I'm kind of traditionalist, as far as guitar playing is concerned. Songs are very structured, right? For me, and Ginger are kind of the opposite of that. Like, they have all these parts and all these different sections put in to one jam, and it's fucking cool in my opinion.
Hell yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Ginger's one of the bands that plays like probably multi-scale instruments, like 7, maybe 8 string guitars. I don't know, but I know they have extended scale range. Like they have like drop A to drop G, probably, these super deep tunings, but still have super high tunings as well. With the 7 and 8 string guitars, they can still hit the normal range while being able to attack that low guttural, genty, heavy thing that they do so well.
Yeah, their guitar player, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
He only plays a 6-string guitar, right? Like, he's not like but they're in like fucking drop A. a lot of their songs. Their bass player, he plays a 6-string bass, if I'm not mistaken. Speaking of, if there's anybody listening to this that enjoys bass players, Eugene, I'm not going to pronounce his last name. I'm not even going to try to. His bass playing. If I was a bass player, I'd want to play like him, right? He kind of reminds me of Ryan Martin of Mudvayne a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's got this tone and he's got this style. I don't know how to describe it because I'm not a bass player, but he just got this certain style. Again, if I was a bass player, I'd want to play like him. So
yeah. It's funny. One of in my little top things, some of mine's just revisiting old shit, right? Like, I don't know, I'm kind of going back down memory lane a little bit.
Exactly.
And you mentioned the bass player, and the bass player is the thing I'm enjoying in this band the most upon my revisit. And I always knew that I liked it, but I didn't realize how much I actually liked the bass player, how much he was driving the driving force of the melodies that I was digging so much. And that's Finger 11.
Okay.
The first 3 albums that they had. And I saw them play so many times at Floyd's Music Store. Like every time they came, I went and saw them play. So I was a really big fan of theirs for a good stint of time. I haven't listened to their stuff for so long. They changed quite a bit. They got a lot poppier, you know, a lot more stock. But those first 3 albums are still pretty kick-ass. And the bass player, like the bass lines is like, man, that, like the ideas behind those lines are just so good. They're not like complex, but they're just right. They're, you know, like, and it's like, oh, I think maybe I associated the guitars with that long ago. You know, you don't think about it distinctly, but as you become a more mature musician over years, you start identifying more about what specifically you're liking about that. That's creating that cohesive overall sound. So Finger 11s in my current rotation is one of my tops. They're awesome.
Okay, who else?
I'm back in Red Hot Chili Peppers, Californication, and By the Way, those two. Well, and Blood, Sex, Sugar Magic. I'm just kind of revisiting those 3 albums again. I'm a huge Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, but I haven't really cared for the last couple of things they've done. And I just haven't listened to him for a long time. Then I start listening to it again with my little, you know, I'm trying to give some influence and dynamics for my 1.5-year-old because he's way in. He asks for music every single day.
Nice.
He literally points at speakers, whatever speakers around, he points at it every day and wants to hear some music. So I'm trying to get him exposed to a dynamic thing here. So Red Hot Chili Peppers was in there because I thought that'd be kind of fun for him. I mean, the funk and everything, I just absolutely love it. And then
it's got to make you smile. I know it makes him.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I love it. You know, it's so cool. And then also revisiting Stone Temple Pilots' Purple album, which is like literally the first rock concert I ever went to. I hearken back all the time on this podcast about what influenced me to become a guitar player. When I turned 16, I went and saw Metallica play. And that was like the first full rock concert. But the first concert was in middle school. My mom took me, and I went to see Stone Temple Pilots play here in Tallahassee at the Civic Center. And that was the album that was Purple. And I spent so much time with that. And I'm revisiting them like, man, that stuff's so good. Like the melody ideas and everything about it. Like I like really complicated music, and I've just been really enjoying getting back to the roots of just like, man, that's just solid music making right there. That's just rock of our time. So good. And then the other 2 I'll throw out there real quick is on the newer side is Sleep Token. Their newest album that dropped over the last year. Now they're a weird one. They're a little dicey. They got some
hearing that name, Sleep Token. I
Dude,
keep damn hearing it.
It's like pop, R&B almost at times, and then like metal. And it's a weird combination. And I think that they figured it out in this new album, personally. The album before that had a few tracks that I liked, but the newest album, I like almost the whole thing. And the stuff that I really, really like. It's very unique. And it just gets into some areas, and I'm like, this is good shit, man. Like and it's definitely original. I really appreciate that. You know, it's a very distinct, they've got their own thing going on.
It's a thing.
I just like that. Yeah,
it's a vibe.
It is
a vibe, right? The kids, that's what the kids say. It's a vibe.
It is a vibe.
And I ran into Sleep Token. It's been over a year. I think it was 2021. And I like stumbled on it. And I don't want to take over your segment, but it was like, I want to tell the story real quick. I stumbled on it. I said, I don't know what I'm hearing. I don't know what I think about what I'm hearing. So I shared it with some friends of mine, two buddies, Kurt Rogers and David Rowe, because they're my go-to guys. Like, what do you guys think of this? And they didn't listen to it. Now, years later, David is all in on Sleep Token, like all in. Favorite band.
Wow.
And we diverged. I came to the realization that it's not for me.
Yeah.
It's definitely that's the topic on Sleep Token right now, right? It's
and have you listened to the new album? This one that came out this year.
I've listened not all of it. I've only listened to the songs that I've heard are probably the ones that are the top 3 that come on like a random playlist on new stuff. what made my mind up was I wasn't sure how I felt about the vocalist, and eventually I just came to the acceptance that is not for me.
I hate it.
Yeah.
It sucks. No, I totally. It's so distinct and so different.
Possible. I fucking hate the way he sings.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's so their own thing. Like you're either going to like this, or it's either going to make it or break it for you. That singer, what they're doing with that.
But I have to say that I respect the bold direction of originality that they're just owning and full steam ahead with. Like, and I respect that. And I don't have anything bad to say about Sleep Token. I just found that it's not in my playlist.
Sure. I got one more to throw at you, and it's again a specific album more than like the band as a whole. Specifically, this album, The Battle at Garden State with Greta Van Fleet, came out in 2021, and I kind of disregarded Greta Van Fleet when they came out.
They're the ones that sound. They're the ones that sound
like Led Zeppelin. Yeah. But this album specifically just has some absolute bangers on it. Like it's just good. Now, it may not be for everybody, but if you wish that era of music still was alive, I think that they figured out how to bring it into their own, and it's still that era of music. And I've checked out their newer album. Just doesn't do it for me. It's specifically this album, The Battle at Gardens Gate. And you can check out like the opening track alone, Heat Above, is just like, I mean, it's like classic rock, but it's killer. And the vocalist has just got some pipes on it, man. I mean, what he's hitting is so good. But there's a lot of good songs on that album.
There's never been a Greta Van Fleet song came on that I didn't jam. You know?
Right on.
If it comes on random, like it's just good. It's
just good. But I mean, this album, I'm telling, if you haven't heard it, guys, The Battle at Gardens. If you're gonna give them a try, this is the album I would recommend to try it on. Because I passed. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't crave. I mean, I remember checking it out back in the day, and I was like, yeah, it's just too much like Zeppelin, and I just want to listen to Zeppelin if I'm gonna, But I think they figured it out in 2021. This album that came out during the pandemic.
Yeah,
I love Led Zeppelin. I love Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was my introduction to rock music. Right?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So,
nice.
And Ash, I am right there with you. When I first heard Greta Van Fleet, I said, "Nope, sounds like Led Zeppelin."
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Sounds too much like it. I just want to go listen to Led Zeppelin now. So
yes.
And I think
all right, I'll check it out.
Check out this one album. Yeah, the Battle at Gardens Gate.
At Garden State.
Gardens Gate.
At Gardens Gate.
Yeah.
So I know I have two things to check out this fucking Sleep Token band that I keep
the last
hearing
album. I think
over and over and
check
over
out
again.
the last album. And you might absolutely hate it,
Okay.
but I do think it's one of those bands that it's so different. You really need like 3 listens. And when I say that, it sounds terrible, but literally I've said this a million times, some of my favorite albums all time, didn't like the album until the 3rd listen. And
Absolutely.
then it became top 10, top 5, some of them.
I was that way with Lamb of God. Jay Daniel actually introduced me to them. But it was their instrumental track, Ashes at the Wake. And there's this one part in the track where there's this quick break, stop, and then go, right? That kind of deal. And it completely catches you off guard. So I listened to the instrumental and I'm like, yes, fucking sold. I love this band. And then I go listen to their non-instrumental, and it's, Randy Blythe, roar, 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 that kind of thing. And I was like, oh no.
And it killed it for you.
It killed it. And then I listened to it, a couple more times. And just like you said, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of digging it. Even as abrasive as the vocals are, actually, I've gotten to where I love the vocals now. So that going back and listening to shit and giving it another go is definitely a thing.
It's a real thing, and it's the travesty of the modern day music listening world. is that there's so much. It's so hard to give something the attention that you gave an album that you paid for.
Yeah. Dick, sounded like you had a question there.
No, I was gonna say, like, with Lamb of God, the first time I heard him was a guy named Severin Jett in Crawfordville had a band shed down there. And he was like, we were, one of those nights hanging out, playing music. Weren't in a band. We were just hanging out together and drinking beers. And he said, hey, I want to let you guys hear something, this new band. And it was Lamb of God. And it was the first album. Now, Lamb of God's first album, notoriously super heavy, insane, can't understand a fucking, not one fucking word.
Nothing.
That Randy Blythe said. It's all raw, yeah, and it doesn't even sound, because he is so notorious for learning how to scream and actually articulately pronouncing his words in his screams, that you hear every word in detail. That's like his thing now. But that first album was such a 180. That one to me is still, that's my Lamb of God. Like that
Absolutely.
one. When he let me hear it, I was just like, I was young. I don't think I was 16, 17. And I was like, and I just said we were drinking beer, but I was like, what is this? What is that? What is that guy doing? Is that real? What? No, right.
One of my favorite tracks on that album is called Black Label. And it's like you said, you can't understand a fucking thing he's saying throughout the entire, but it's like at the same time, the music is so goddamn good. To me, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. Might as well have been an instrumental at that point.
That's heavy music at its core.
Yeah.
That it's so good. It turned me off when I was young in a couple of bands that ended up being my favorite bands. One of the stories I tell is there was a mix CD that had a couple songs on it that I really liked. And it had this one song that was a song called Alive or Just Breathing by a band called Kill Switch Engage.
Nah.
And this was back in like 2002. And I was like, it had this long, clean Metallica-like guitar driven intro that I just loved. I was like, man, it's so good. And then when he started screaming, I was like, what is this? This isn't good. I was like, it didn't do it for me the first couple times I heard it. And then 2 years later, I was like, wait a minute, I understand. It's amazing. It's not weird. And that's how your ear changes depending on your situation or where you're at in life or how old you are or what you had for breakfast. Sometimes, it like on what you want to hear. And it's kind of like you want to bring into your being what makes you feel good, what makes you feel empowered, whatever it might be. That's what music does. And it's different for everybody. And it's different for an individual from one point to the next. And so like with Lamb of God, I can see the first time hearing it, like, oh, what the hell's that guy doing? But then the 10th time hearing it, especially as a musician, like, oh, hold on. These guys are ripping it 110% the entire time. And they're not letting up. They're just putting it even harder as it goes on.
And Dick, how many times have we all gone to a rock show, and you can't understand a fucking thing that's being said, but at the same time, you're not at the show for the message of the song. You're there for the music. Who cares? I do actually. But who really cares about what's being said? In the lyrics or whatever. You're there for the music.
Sometimes it's weird. Like you go see a band. For me, I'm the kind of listener that sometimes I don't pick up on the lyrics or the subject matter on the first listen or the second listen or the third listen,
or
like
ever.
Ever sometimes.
So my wife points out this music's actually kind of stupid. You realize that, right? What are you talking about? Are you listening to what they're saying? Well, yeah,
what do you mean?
I sing the chorus all the time. Yeah, but did you listen to the verse that led to it so you know what the hell he's acting? And then I'll listen like these lyrics are retarded.
Axl Rose.
Man, it's just stupid.
Excuse me. Sorry.
Some lyrics are absolutely god awful, But but you mentioned like the experience at the concert. It's like, yeah, I mean, I think that's also something else too. Is like when you go to a concert, the goal is that you want to have a good time, man. You're spending money. You're out there. The last thing you want to do is put all that effort into being out there, staying up late, and have a bad time.
Right.
The effort and intention behind the mentality of wanting to enjoy something and have a good time. And then hopefully you're experiencing that camaraderie. I mean, there's a camaraderie. It's a church. I mean, you don't have to be religious to have a religious experience because you can go to a concert. And it's this weird energy that everyone comes into unison for. And it can be even for a band you've never even heard before. And then just the music and everything that's happening about it's so powerful. And you may not understand or hear the lyrics distinctly enough, especially in a live setting, to know exactly what they're saying. But it really doesn't mean that it couldn't be one of the most amazing concert experiences that you've ever had, because the melody's there, the emotions there, the energy's there, the effort and of everybody wanting to be there to have a good time and support the energy that's going up on that stage, to give back and forth and back and forth, and everybody's feeding on it. It's just like, it's a spiritual experience, really, is where it can land. We lost Dick. So, but yeah, man, I mean, the concert, that's the goal. And you think about how hard it is to achieve that much intentionality and wanting to have the best time possible when you sit down and listen to some music. And it's not always there because you can listen more readily. And this is where I think we pass many bands that actually have great stuff in today's environment, because you can have new music pumping all the time in the background, no attention given to, and you can just kind of rate it for what it was. It was almost like a passing tone. Meanwhile, they spent hundreds of hours putting that concept together, and there might be so much more there than you realize. It's so different than buying an album the way that we used to.
And what we're talking about is exactly why I sit here and bang my head against this goddamn keyboard, trying to perfect every little note and every little drum beat and every little cymbal and ride or whatever. We are perfectionists at our craft because we want people to fucking enjoy it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a journey to making it. And once it's done, and that is great. But it's like that exploration. I will say this, and I don't know what your full process is on it, how you're layering this and but I do think there's absolutely something to getting the body of anything down with all these different things. Same with video. You get it. Sometimes I'll be at this purgatory where I cannot move forward even in a video edit because I'm being so damn particular about the exact way it needs to be as I'm moving through it.
Yep.
And sometimes I'm like, you know what, dude, just like you spent the last 4 hours, you've moved 5 seconds into the edit. Just put some shit on the canvas. Start just letting it evolve itself a little bit. Just get it there and then modify. That's the beautiful thing that we've got going on with these computers and softwares. You can go back and you can do other takes. You can figure out the parts, but listen to it or see it more as a whole, that full skeleton, and then assess why you need a solo there or more lead lines there. Because you got to think about it as a whole, and you feel so much more accomplished working on a skeleton than literally building up every muscle and tendon and fingernail and tooth as you go. And you're just still trying to create the head. And you're like, you don't know what you're modifying yet. See what it is first. So just be sloppy. Just get a concept there that has a few parts, and then just know that you can keep mutating it. And I think that once you get a little momentum, that's when it starts to guide itself on the decision making.
It's funny we're having this conversation. I did that. I did exactly that. I had been working on this track for like 4 or 5 hours, and I was about done with it. I was about to just fucking turn it off and be done with it. I had a part for a solo that I hadn't recorded yet. I said, let me give this solo a shot real quick before I put this down. It'll take me a couple minutes probably. And I am so proud of this solo. It's a song that I'd written before, and I had a solo written for it, but I wasn't quite happy with the solo, so I did it differently, for lack of better terms. And I am so proud of the solo that came out on this one track. So yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Put
That's
something
great.
down.
That's awesome. Is this
Yeah.
is I mean, it sounds like, is this, out of everything you've recorded, would you say that specific thing is
Yes.
like top tier?
If nothing else has come out of this whole process, I've got a really cool solo.
That's dude. That's the one you got to finish first, man. Just keep working on that song. Figure out how to get that one done. That's what you got to do. That's the
plan.
Dude. Yeah,
you tapped into that vessel that the muse lives in, right? You're like,
yes,
that's the idea.
You went outside your comfort zone. You got in a groove, and you just said, that's when Rob was Rob.
Yes,
and there was no. You're not trying to. I want it to sound like this, or I want it to sound like that. It's
the stakes weren't high at all.
No,
you were just gonna throw something there before you quit for the day.
Exactly.
That's where the best stuff lives. That's where you dig up. That's where you dig up the biggest dinosaur bones, right?
Yes.
That's awesome, man. Well, guys, we're approaching. We just went past our an hour, which is great. I hate to be the stick in the mud as I usually am. I have to turn in a commercial tomorrow, and I still got to do all the entire soundscape for it and color grade it. So I'm a little bit behind the wheel on it. But that all being said, I think that's actually a great note for us to leave on, that you've made the best guitar solo in the world. And I want to hear it completed as a song. And
yes, you will.
To throw it out there, dude, you do not need to share any of your shit with me and Dick, but you're more than welcome to. I mean, and you can even say, I mean, like, if you're just asking for an opinion about an A-B on something or whatever, we're there. We won't share it. We'll keep it private. It's up to you. You have more listening ears if you need feedback of different styles and all that stuff. And I know you. It looks like you're not going to do that, which is fine.
No worries. I am a riff whore. Just so you know, I will write and collaborate with anyone on the planet. And if I'm ever in town and you're up doing writing or recording or anything and just riffing around, I'm always happy to come over and collaborate and do anything. And I think it'd be really cool. I want to hear what you're doing.
I'd love that. I would love that. Damn right. Guys, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks for being here, man. We appreciate it.
Damn right.
It won't be the last time either.
You have been listening to the Muses podcast. We are a sci-fi rock free to watch show on YouTube called Cue the Muses. My name's Dick, and this is Ash, and this is Rob Knowles, and this has been the Cue the Muses podcast.
Thanks for watching and listening, guys.
I have full screen. I can't stop it. Okay. Now I can.